All right, everybody. I've got 6:35. We're going to call the regular meeting of the Common Council to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Todd Spaeth,
Here.
Cindy,
Here.
John,
Here.
Crystal,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
Andrew.
Here.
Todd Kirking is excused. Emma Hood is excused.
All right. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item number 2 is approval of the June 24th, 2025 regular council minutes.
This is Crystal. I would move approval of those minutes without additions or corrections.
Okay.
Steve, I'll second.
I
Yep.
do have one. I'm sorry to pipe in because it's my error that I caught. I used a prior template when I copied it over. And if you'll notice in the top part here where it says roll call, it's the old date. So it says 2024. So we do need to just correct it to the June 20.
And I noticed that Aaron Aslin's last name is misspelled, number 5. It's Aslin.
And right
Number
here.
5.
How did you say it?
Aslin.
Okay. And I am sorry, I was busy piping in. And so, Crystal, you made the motion.
So I will
And-
amend that to
Okay.
change the date to the correct date and change Erin Aslin's spelling on her name.
Second it again.
All right. Got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Item number 3, council announcements. Any member of the council have anything? Steve?
Yeah. Coming up July 15th at 6 p.m. here in this room, there's going to be an Eckhart Playground information meeting as well as discussion. So I invite the public to please show up.
Yeah, so just clarification on that, it is just a standard park and rec meeting, but embedded within
Sorry.
that park and rec meeting is the public information meeting and discussion that Steve
Come for the
mentioned.
discussion, stay for the meeting.
Perfect.
Said
So-
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. And then July 22nd, we're also going to have a joint comprehensive plan, outdoor concert comprehensive plan meeting, but that is just specific to those plans. So come, that's at 5 on the 22nd of July in this room as well.
Anybody else? Nope. All right. We'll move on. Cindy?
I just,
Sorry, I saw you were.
well, I was thinking that I don't want to take Todd's, but isn't the fly-in Sunday? Fly-in
Yes,
breakfast?
flying breakfast is Sunday.
7 to, or 7:30 to 11, or 7 to 11:30, or
Great.
come one, come all.
Yeah. Anything else? All right. Item number 4, first period for public comment. We have Carson here, but
We have quite a few people online. I think some people are here for future agenda items, but there's a couple people from the public. Anybody who wants to make public comment, they can do so at this time.
hearing none, I'm going to move on to item number 5, which is discussion with possible action on resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of a $2,500,000 general obligation promissory note series 2025B.
Sean, can you hear us okay? So I'll get this started. I think Sean might still have himself muted, but we'll give him a second to unmute. Looks
Yeah,
like
there we go, Nate. Sorry about that.
Nope, go ahead. So we had talked about this at the last meeting. It is sale day today, and so Sean is here with us virtually to kind of walk through the sale day report and guide us through the agenda item, which is to look at a possible approval of the resolution authorizing the issuance. So Sean, I got the sale day report. If you want to sort of launch from there, I'm happy to navigate.
Yeah, thank you, Nate, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Nate, if you'd go to the rating report, I'd like to start there. Just wanted to update the council. You'll recall over the last couple years, the city has had an A+ rating, which is very, very good rating for the city the size of Viroqua. But recently, they put what is called a negative outlook on our rating. This was primarily last year, and what was going on is your general fund unassigned fund balance was at a fairly high level, and then it showed quite a drop, which was a couple things going on at the same time. One was just some recategorization of expenses from the past and assets of the past. The other was, and I'm sure the council is aware of this, you were doing a lot of major projects and you were fronting some of your cash to cover some of the preliminary expenses prior to reimbursing yourself from grants and from the issuance of debt. Well, I'm happy to say, with the draft audit provided by Johnson Block and through a lot of work by Nate and Lori, we had an updated discussion with Standard & Poor's. They affirmed the A+ rating for the city, and this was the best part of the process, they moved us back into the stable category out of the negative category. So it was a really good, satisfying experience, I think, for all of us involved, in that we were able to identify clearly for the rating agency and confidently for the rating agency that the city has a solid fund balance and is in strong shape. And I would encourage the council, when you have a chance, to please read through the report, and you'll certainly recognize that as you see it. So again, very good news. Now, with that news being available to us to share with the public, we put out for bid this morning the sale of the $2,500,000. And Nate, if you can move to the bid tabulation. Perfect. Thank you. So we had the A+ stable rating as part of our sale today. And if you look at the bid tabulation, you'll see we ended up getting 5 bids. This sale in Wisconsin is really one of the first sales following the long weekend. So we're always a little curious as to how the market's going to come back after a long weekend. But I'm very happy to report that there was a lot of interest with the 5 bids, and the interest rates were very strong. With the winning bid, if you look at the column true interest rate at the 4.07%, and then if you look down at the second through fifth place bids on the second page, you'll see that those bids were very competitive and very close to the winning bid that we received from Baird. The other thing I would note on the bids, you'll see a couple of the bids certainly from the Midwest area, but we also had one from Florida and one from Illinois and from Chicago. And that's always good to see and representative of confidence in the finances of the city and confidence that comes through from that strong rating that you have as well, with that A+ rating with the stable outlook. Lastly, Nate, if you can move to the final page of the sale day report. This was an exhibit we had as part of the pre-sale, and with the results, the annual debt service and the total debt service. Maybe Nate, if you scroll a little bit further down. Yeah, there we go. The net total debt payments over the 20-year life of the issue are $3,607,000. In the pre-sale report, the number was $3,675,000. So with the stronger than expected bid at the 4.07, 4.08 rate, we had in the pre-sale report projected a true interest rate around 4.46%. So with the lower result today, that translates into about $67,000 to $70,000 less in interest cost over the life of the issue. As Nate and I talked with the council, the repayment schedule you see here will be somewhat paid back by the general debt levy of the city, and then some is paid back by tax increment districts 6 and 7 in the city. But overall, lower costs than we had projected a couple weeks ago. The other updated document that came to the city today, along with the sale day report, was the updated sale resolution that the mayor read the title from at the beginning. And what would be needed tonight by the council to lock into the best bid from Baird and lock into the interest rates that were proposed that give us that combined interest rate of the 4.0708%. Is approval of that resolution by vote of the council. Before taking action on that, though, if of course, as always, if Nate has anything to add, or if there's any questions from the mayor or council, I'd be happy to answer those.
I think you did a pretty darn good job, Sean. Thank you for that. Just a reminder for the council when we're talking about this type of issuance, that's not the spreadsheet I was looking for, is what we were issuing the debt for. So just a reminder on, a quick reminder on that. Some of it was for, several of them were for items we've already authorized. So the salt shed, Center Avenue, the streets portion of Center Avenue, the dump truck body, which we are in full receipt of now. Preparing for the cost of landfill remediation was a large amount of what we've borrowed for. Preparing to borrow, or we've borrowed for in anticipation of Eckhart Playground, and knowing that we've been targeting that project for quite a bit of time now. And then a series of additional funds for projects yet to be named, but one of them that was named the last meeting was the replacement for the streets pickup. So those are part and parcel of what this issuance is for, but do know that there are still an amount of funds out there that still need to be allocated to projects. Do you have a question?
I don't have a
Okay.
question. I was just gonna say thank you for that and thank Sean for the information.
Appreciate it, Sean.
And then, so the resolution, the updated resolution from Bridget, Sean, is on the screen now. If we, again, there was a version of this included in your packet. Sean, I don't know if there's any highlights of any changes or revisions that you would point out.
Yeah, the primary difference between the version that was in the packet that Nate just referenced and what we are looking at on the screen now is the sale day report numbers that I just went over with the council have now been included in the resolution, where those results were not available when the draft resolution was circulated before. So as you scroll through it, you'll see the winning bid, you'll see the interest rates, and the annual debt service payments have all been included in the resolution, where those were left blank previously because we had not received the bids and decided upon the winning bid at the time you received the draft. So that's really the major difference. Otherwise, the text is verbatim from what you saw before. So here's a good example. I think as Nate's scrolling through, you'll get to information that shows the same things that were presented in the sale day report. The bid tabulation right here, and then the annual debt service payments are included. The bid form with the bid from Baird as well. Yep, and there's the annual payments included there.
And so Bridget is from Quarles and Brady. They're our bond counsel who make sure, again, that we're doing everything correctly. That was part of what Lori and I have been busy working on the last couple weeks, is getting onto due diligence calls with them, and they just make sure everything we do is accurate and allows us to meet the requirements for a tax exempt issuance. So this was prepared by her and submitted to us shortly before this meeting. So with that, Sean, I think we're just looking for, if the council's up for it, a formal motion to accept the resolution as shown here on screen.
Cindy.
Yep, a motion and a second, correct.
I make a motion, we accept the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $2.5 million general obligation promissory note series 2025B.
ZJ, I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Lori was wondering if Sean knew when the closing date would be. I guess she just needs to know that for follow-up checking the bank.
Yes, it is. Let me just double check. It is July 29th will be the date that the funds are received by the city.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And I think we'll do a roll call.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Sean.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Have a good rest of the evening.
You as well.
Thanks, Sean.
Moving along, we are gonna table item number 6. We're still waiting on some information for that, so we're gonna jump over that and move on to item number 7, which is review and approval of pay request number 11 for the fire station project.
Copy of this was included as part of your council packet. This new one I have on screen is the same exact thing, except it includes the signature and recommendation from our third-party inspector at Bierbecker. Chad has come up to the podium. Chad, anything you want to walk through on this particular pay request? You want to acapella this or barbershop quartet?
No, I mean, basically business as usual. There are a couple things I want to confirm. And I think I know the answer, but there's a couple of them that look like they're 100% paid minus the retainer. Is that the right word? Retainage. So there's a couple of contractors in there that have a zero balance to be paid minus the retainer, obviously, but they still have some work to do, I guess. So I want to confirm with Keller, if the retainer is that, maybe that's part of that. So again, just making you guys aware that I do have a couple questions for Keller to make before we send them this payment. Nothing big, but just a couple little things that I noticed that, like, why are they at zero if they still have some work to do? But again, maybe retainage is what covers that. Aside from that, everything looks solid. Actually, a few of them, I'm surprised they haven't asked for more money because they are farther along than what it appears we still would owe them. But that's okay. We'll keep their money as long as we can. So yeah, unless you have any questions, that was really the only thing that I had to bring up.
So for those of you who are looking at this detailed sheet, the column and it's a little hard because this is among the hardest spreadsheets that put on the screen all at the same time. But this is the application that they're putting in for this time around. And so you can sort of see what some of the larger items are if you strain your eyes real hard. Again, quite a bit of money continuing to come out for the metal building system. Here more for it looks like to be plumbing, HVAC, electrical subs, which all makes sense given where they're at this state and project. And so it sounds like what I'm hearing from Chief Burrows is that we could have the council approve this particular pay request contingent on the fire chief being satisfied with the answers he's going to ask Keller. And at which point we would then take the pay request, send it to the USDA for their concurrence before it gets paid. Is that generally what you're looking for?
I want to confirm on a couple things. Not big, but still important.
Thanks, Chief. Questions for Chad? We look for a motion.
ZJ, I make a motion that we approve the pay request number 11 for the fire station project pending follow-up with fire chief.
This is Todd. I'll second the motion.
All right, we've got a motion, a second. Any other questions?
The exact amount on the pay request, which I think is customary for us to have on these motions, is $497,228.19.
I will amend the motion to add the $497,228.19.
I second that.
Any other questions? We'll do a roll call.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
Thanks, Chad. All right, item number 8, operator license approvals.
Okay, there was just a couple that we went over at finance or public safety. I think the straggler, most of them were Walgreens because they kind of straggled in later. There was one for mobile and then one for Woolly Bear. And it sounds like those were all approved.
Is the Woolly Bear one not shown then?
It wasn't on the sheet at the time that Lori had sent out the packet. And so, yeah, just tonight is when I found out they were an additional one that came in right before the meeting.
This is Crystal, and I would move approval of the operator, or excuse me, approval of, yeah, the operator license for public safety, including Walgreens, Mobile, and Woolly Bear.
Steve will second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 9, review and approval of pay request number 5 for Main Street Tap Project.
Sorry, I've been mucking around with all sorts of things here. Okay, so this is not our last pay request for Main Street Tap Project, but it is darn close. We basically have all of the work on here. We've held back the retainage fully still, which maybe is overkill, but it was submitted late and we just didn't have a lot of time to go through with them how much we would hold in retainage. And then also the liquidated damages. So that would be the time frame, the costs we incurred because they were over the time, and the costs we incurred could only be the cost that we had in additional engineering. So essentially they took the engineering contract work up to a certain date, and then everything remaining, which was $10,514.20. So you will see this come back again, but there's not going to really be much with it. Why we would hold the retainage back, which again, this was 50,000 more than what we really need to at this point. But the repairs they need to do to the asphalt on the east side of the road, or excuse me, west side of the road. So when they did the removals of the markings that existed, they were using a method of hydroblasting that was very effective on the concrete, but it destroyed the asphalt. I shouldn't say it took off, I would say, a half an inch. It took all the filler material out of it. And so they have to go back and repair that. It's not a lot, but there's a lot of little spots. So what we got here today is looking at basically all the remaining work, which in large part is the traffic signals and the concrete work and the marking. So of the things that were sort of like out of the ordinary, some of the stuff was just like where the contract had decided to end, like how it blended things in. And so often we did a little more because it just made more sense. It made for a better project. We had, like, for example, this line item here. I'm pretty sure that's this one. So we ended up having the retaining wall at the Vets Memorial taken out, and then we ended up putting a curb wall along it just because retaining walls are a challenge, and we could get away with just a shorter wall and then blending in. It allowed for blending in without having to blend in all the way to the sidewalk level. And then also it prevents people from like crossing through it and walking on it. So there's a few things like that where we just made some modifications. Another one that's like this line here at 400%. That was because when we put in the South Street traffic lights, we have an older style light and we recycled the lights that were at Jefferson. And so the new lights have a countdown for walking, right? So that's pretty standard. So while we had it there and there was budget for it, we said just put it in the way with the countdown. And just as a reference, I have been talking to the DOT about doing some work on Decker because only one of them has the countdown. We just replaced it with the newer version, but all of them should. Updating our controller and possibly having like the audio prompts they have now that says walk, walk. So in any case, apparently there's a grant that's going to be open in October that's like specifically for those kind of control things. And it's like an amazing deal. It's either 80 or 90% grant. So we'll look at doing that uniformly. I think that's largely it. The other things that you see over in here are concrete amounts as well as concrete curb repair. That was intentional. If you remember, we did some repair work while we knew they were there. It's a much better deal. We did about 12,000 last year, and we did, I believe it was 34 this year. Well within our budget. If you remember, we carried over some of that stuff that we didn't use. So all of that, accounting wise, when we pay this, we have to make sure we get it out of the right category. But in terms of this pay request, it's not necessarily needing to be split up. In fact, it's all a part of the same contract. So the amount due of this application is $253,159.82. And as I said, we're where we expected to be. We hopefully can get some of these extra things covered under the grant because we get an 80% grant. Some of it, like the repairs, they wouldn't include. But I expect to be on budget for the project. So, which is always on budget's awesome. Anything beyond, anything close to it's awesome. Okay, so yes, looking for approval for the $253,159.82, and that number was not on the Public Works brought forward. The pay request was brought forward, but it was given to me half an hour before, so we didn't know what the number was. But that one is what the number would be here.
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve pay request number 5 for Main Street Tap Project. The total of $253,159.82.
This is Crystal.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
We'll do a roll call, please.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to item number 10, which is review and approval of pay request number 4 for Main and Decker project.
Okay, very similar. But this one is going to be the last pay request, and this one is for the Decker intersection specifically. We did have that one change order. If you remember, it was for the groundwork in front of the bus garage. The only reason it got put on here was we just didn't want to have to deal with the DOT when we made that change and try to explain all of that. And that is also paid by the Public Works budget. So this one is with all the retainage removed. And the pay due this application is $32,667.87. I had said at Public Works that I thought we were 12,000 under, and that is not the case because I had forgot about the markings. But it's putting us with our contingency using for this extra $360. We're well within our budget of what we had for that as well. So looking for this approval. Again, this one also did not have a number with the approval from Public Works because of the time frame.
Cindy, I make a motion, we approve, this was number 2, right? Or number 4? We're talking about number 4 for.
This one's
Decker?
over, yeah.
Okay, for Main Decker project, $32,667.87.
CJ, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
All right, item number 11, review and approval of change order number 2 for the 2024 sewer project.
Okay, I'm so exciting to finish projects off. Finally. So this change order is a change order, but it's also cleaning a few things up. So the additions to this is some additional cost for the fairgrounds fence. It was just in poor condition and you reused it, but we wanted, the fairgrounds have been amazing working with us. They've been very cooperative and we did not want to piece more together for them than there already was there. Mostly it was like the top bar on that fence. This was, you can see it's going in and going out. This is because we had, Badger wanted to try boring under part of Main Street and we told them that was fine, but it was at your own risk. So if for some reason you hit a rock, because we found rock in the area in the borings, that it wouldn't be an additional cost to the city. And so that's why you see an in and out is essentially they did the work for the same price. And then the borings here, this would be doing some laterals under Broadway. We had 3 of them. We had originally planned for 2, and so we have a savings here because when we bore, we don't take up the asphalt. And so the total change order ends up being $4,301.45. However, I will say that we ended up being within our budget because there were other parts that we never ended up using. So looking for approval for this change order, which also came from Public Works.
Okay, this is Crystal, and I would move approval of the change order number 2 in the amount of $4,301.45 for the 2024 sewer project.
This is Todd. I'll second the motion.
And a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
All right. Item number 12, review and approval of pay request number 8 for the 2024 sewer project.
Okay, so this is the last pay request that we're going to see for this project. We talked about the change order previously. And so essentially this was just doing the remaining work. And most of that was on the Main Street area, like in Sands Road, getting things tied up, really. A lot of restoration work. We did do a slightly different style sidewalk in front of the fairgrounds where it's like flat across instead of that angle that you saw with a little bit of the boulevard there. So we moved a few things around, ended up doing, if you remember that change order 1, we ended up doing things slightly differently, but it was basically a wash. So long story short, we are now done. We are looking at a pay request of $143,913.41. Budget wise, we still have some Veerbecker bills coming in, but this has gone very well for us because originally we assumed the sewer would have to put $300,000 worth of reserve money in. And then early on, we applied for a waiver, which allowed the EPA money to all be used first. So like you always get into different grant programs have different things. USDA wants us to spend their money last or whatnot, but they actually allow for no match up to that amount of money. And so I'm projecting we're about 70,000 instead of 300,000. So that's awesome. Well, I'll give you the numbers when we finally get there, but yeah. That's a good win. Okay, so again, looking for our current payment due, and this is like the final pay request for this project.
This is Todd. I move to approve the pay request number 8 for the 2024 sewer project in the amount of $143,913.41.
CJ, I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Just to comment that this took a long time. I know you talked about the sewer project for a long time, so to be at the end is pretty neat.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's been working really well. It's so awesome to get rid of infrastructure, right? Getting rid of a lift station and not having a sewer main that goes through the landfill all worked out really well for us.
Great. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Andrew.
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth.
Aye.
All right, item number 13, approval of contract change order with TRC for landfill engineering.
Okay, Mike is also on with us again today remotely. This is us gearing up for a 7 a.m. start tomorrow if everything goes smoothly. So this is for TRC. So we originally had a contract with them, and what they've been doing is doing some edits to basically change orders. So our original work with them was that 28,600. That was getting them to do the investigation, try to figure out what was going on out there. And then we said, okay, we know we need to move to the next step, which is basically putting a plan together and doing the engineering, the plan submittals with the DNR. So that was at the last time we looked at this contract, it was 49,700. And so the proposal today is for the 22,950, which is construction observation. And that would be Mike's coming out for the first day fully, and then we'll have observation the entire time out there. I will say that we have not fully spent this 21,100. I don't want to get excited about it yet because we never know what's going to happen next. And there is a second phase to this, right? We're going to be, well, assuming everything goes smoothly and we do still need to do further work, we would be going into a second phase. And so we might end up spending that. But I just, as a note, I would say Mike's been very budget conscious for us. He's also from a small community, so I think he's trying to make it work. Mike, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
The only thing is that I would add there, Sarah, is we've got it budgeted for 5 days. And the contractor's hoping that it'll be done in 3. So we may not need that whole budget, but we don't know what we don't know. So,
yeah, great. Thank you. I forgot about that.
Anything else? Don,
So this one did not go to Public Works first just because of timing. So this would be the first time this is seen.
Questions? For a motion.
Make a motion to approve the contract with TRC for landfill engineering, $22,950.
This is Crystal, I'll second.
Got a motion, a second. Any more questions? Roll call, please.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy, John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
All right, approval, item number 14 is approval for contract with Badger Environmental for landfill gas remediation phase 1.
Okay, so we just took care of the contract with the engineer. So this is the contract with the contractor, which is we've worked with Badger Environmental. That did the opposite of what I wanted. Badger Environmental to do the work, and we've been working with them pretty closely over the last little bit, trying to get some good bid numbers. Then what we did sort of like have this merging work that we've been working on. So we've been trying to fine tune the bid numbers, and then working with George on, this is George's document that he drafted. It's modeled after what we used for the Old City Hall demo. We want to have a contract, but we don't want to get as sophisticated and complicated as our bid forms because they're not truly bidding, right? So in any case, this is the contract they put together. We have in here that the completion is July 18th, although we have till the 30th, but we're just giving ourselves some extra time because we might need it. Hopefully not. And then obviously it's like a standard contract where we basically pay for the work done, that kind of thing. And then we've been working on this bid form, which I will say should not be used as your final price tag. So we've been actually working on a range. Ooh, what have I done? I've done some sort of, I'm going to stop pressing buttons. Okay. We have this number here, which is not working to my advantage here. So in this contract, our total unit price addition is that $187,583. And I will say that this is a guess. And I say that in the best way possible. So we did the bid forms where we did a range of worst case and best case scenario. And we were looking at 135,000 on one end and 200 and basically 50,000 on the other end. So in order to put our bid prices together, what we don't want to do is assume everything's the worst case scenario, because then our unit price is based on the worst case scenario. In particular, we're looking at this, the biggest unknown for us, which is these numbers in here, because we have different excavation numbers. Sorry, I keep trying to zoom it into a proper level. Like you want me to do, let's see, this thing? Print layouts? Yeah, there we go. I was trying not to maneuver too many things. Okay, so this is our biggest unknown at this moment. We know what we want to do and we know how long that distance is, but we don't know how deep we have to go. And we're going to find out a lot tomorrow when we start digging and figure out where, like, we're trying to hit a specific area within the waste and the soil. But it could be 15 feet deep and it could be 10 feet deep. And those are sort of the two flags we're using, because in one situation, they're going to be able to just work within their trench box. But once they have to go deeper, then it's unsafe for them to be just digging a vertical like you would see in a trench box. And so it just costs more money because it's just harder to work. That also changes the quantity, because when you start like going with like a sloped angle, now you're obviously taking out more material than you would if it was straight up and down. So not typically the way I like to go about things, where it's like a range, but I really truly the most appropriate way to present this to you is that there is a range. Let's see, we have here as hauling to Vernon County. We did confirm with them today that they will accept it starting tomorrow. And I don't know, Mike, is there anything I haven't said, or would you like to add, or?
The only thing, Sarah, is the cost associated with disposal at Vernon County is not in here.
Correct, yes. In order to just save from overhead and then just why add another step, we're going to pay the county directly versus paying the Badger Environmental to pay the county their tipping fees.
That those tipping fees are isolated from our other tipping fees?
Sure.
Just so that we can,
Account.
yes. Right.
I actually think it's a separate category. I'm not exactly sure,
Okay.
but yes, I will make a note of making sure we're not billed within a bill that is not able to be separated. I would say the range, though, if I'm correct, Mike, it did include the tipping fees. It's just the tipping fees aren't in this specific document.
Yes.
Okay, so this came forward, the idea, we talked about it and showed the range at Public Works. This document was not specifically in front of Public Works, but the work that we were proposing to do. So looking for approval.
This is Crystal, and I would move approval for the contract with Badger Environmental for the landfill gas remediation Phase 1. And the estimated amount is $187,583.00.
Cindy, I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
I think when this originally came up, the number was between 400,000 and 700,000.
It sort of still
So
is,
this is-
though. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
because
it
it's
is,
so
okay,
many
that's
first
what I-
phase, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was.
We've gotten a little bit, I guess. I don't even want to say better because I'm not ready to say that. But yeah, this is Phase 1. Hopefully we'll learn a lot more. And then when we come back for Phase 2, if we do need to do it, we'll have a much better
Okay.
idea of what we're offering.
This is just kind of exploratory then
This
for
is
now.
how we struck the deal with the DNR was that this is identifying the current concern that they have about the methane being in the church building.
Yeah.
And so this was
Right.
like the first step. And so they were happy to do this and see the rest done later to make sure that we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Mike has definitely added a lot of contingencies for if we need to do it differently, that we don't have to rebuild this part again. But they weren't satisfied. They were satisfied with the idea that we were addressing the immediate health concern,
Yeah. Okay.
or at least trying to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Okay. Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
And Todd.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. Item number 15, discussion with possible action on Johnson Block Service Agreement for TID 3.
Just need a moment here to shift screens. Joy, I do believe you're gonna give the preface for this one, if I remember correctly, so.
Sure, I just had some notes from Lori, and she basically said TID 3 closes this year, so this is the final accounting for the state. And she's got an estimate $5,000 to $6,000.
This amount is always put into our projections for TIDs, that whenever we get to the end of a TID, there's always like a closeout cost to us just to wrap everything up and shut it down. And so this has been forecasted as a cost since the TID has ever existed. And they essentially, whatever's left in there, they'll put into the Affordable Housing Fund. This is the last year we had that 1 year extension. It's a hefty amount, but they'll leave enough money, the $5,000 to $6,000 to pay Johnson and Block for closing out the TID. And that engagement letter was part of your council package. And if anybody's wondering, no, we cannot leave the TID open any longer. Per state statute, have to close, and per state statute, we have to do this closeout procedure. So not a lot of room for flexibility here.
And this is Crystal, and I would move approval on the Johnson Block Service Agreement for TID number 3 with the range of $500 or $5,000 to $6,000.
Cindy, I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
All right. Item number 16, discussion with possible action on 2026 budget goals and assignment of budget team.
At our last meeting, we had a conversation regarding the budgeting process, which was approved. And the first step in the budgeting process was to do the upfront conversations about budget goals, sort of give direction to myself, the department heads, about how they should be approaching their budgets when they create their drafts, right? Which is the next step after this. And so tonight, we already had the fire department, police department have a conversation with public safety. I had a conversation with finance and personnel, and at some point in the near future, the next couple of weeks, I think actually next week is Public Works. Sarah will have a conversation with Public Works about street department budgets. And then Kale, I think it's maybe the 15th, or I think it's 15th maybe, as well. We'll have a conversation about Park and Rec. But what I want to do right now, just because I'm going to start working on budgets and department heads are going to start working on budgets next week, waiting until the 29th is just a little too late. And so what this is tonight is just to kind of get an overall view or feedback, suggestions, guidance from the council as a whole about the citywide budget, right? So just overall themes that you may have, just making sure we're rounding as many bases as possible before the department heads go into budgeting. So what I have up on the screen here is just a reminder of what was shown to you when we approved the 2025 budget, right? So I just want to jog memories a little bit here. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but this is, again, intended to jog memories. And then I really wanted to open it up just to just open discussion. Okay. So when we walked into 2025, these were sort of the category or the themes that emerged as sort of our priorities, right? Future flexibility under state levy limits, and make sure that we're hitting our expenditure restraint revenue. It's a large amount of money we give by hitting some expenditure restraint totals. The formulas on that are a little dense. I'm not going to go into here, but just know that expenditure restraint is and the money that comes from that is something we try to get. I think it's somewhere in the range of $60,000 to $70,000 annually. Cash balance, we talked about that tonight. As far as our S&P rating went, it's an important thing for us to maintain a good cash balance, not only for making sure we have funds on hand to pay our bills, but also to make sure that we show ourselves as in good standing for when we do debt issuances to our issuers. CPI, this is something that we shot for last year, but we did not achieve. We were actually short by 0.5%. CPI was like 3.5%, and we were able to achieve 3% across the board. And there were a couple positions that we made adjustment increases, but we did not have COLA increases last year that kept up with CPI once again. And then some of this other stuff is absorb inflationary increases, right? We're talking utilities, we're talking just the cost of things, right? And being able to do the same things we always do just is more expensive every year. And then these two are big ones. Address department priorities. I can go into that next. Actually, it's not on here, but the department had similar, after we came on all these meetings, I listed, these are what the departments and what the feedback I heard at the different committee meetings said, and we're hoping to try to do. Mixed results on that, right? In a lot of ways, it didn't go exactly as we had hoped. Let me take that back. We weren't able to achieve as much as we had hoped because of the restraints we were under. And then, of course, and this has been one that we've had in place since I've been here, always seeking a balanced approach to services and spending, right? Whatever that means to you, it's a bit subjective, but that's always been sort of a general mentality of seeking balance, so that we're providing quality services. But if we can provide tax relief to our citizens as much as possible, that's something to always shoot for. I put these up here because these are just general principles that I want to make sure still stand with this group. And if not, let's talk about it, okay? Go ahead, Cindy.
That's a question. The second one, we used to do that every other year. Did something change with the state or the federal, or did we change something? The expenditure restraint incentive program.
Essentially, when the budget team had gone into conversation, it was my recommendation to them that they always seek to achieve that expenditure restraint money, simply because it was that important, and going without it 1 year became problematic. I mean, $60,000 to $70,000 is a large chunk of money, and we've hit this point here where prior to that we would make big leaps and then not do as big of a leap, so we would get it, and now we're no longer in the position whatsoever to make a big leap anymore because of levy limits, which is why we essentially don't really play around with not trying to achieve expenditure restraint. But that's a good question. Okay, so we can come back to this, but again, I'm just going to whiz through this real quick here. But those are, when we talk about goals and overarching goals, this is what generally we're talking. Okay. Once again, this just talks with this graph from budget time, and this is part of what Cindy was talking about here, where over the course of time we have taken steps to increase our budget, whether it's bringing on a new police officer, a new administrative assistant within the fire department, pay increases, program increases, whatever you want to say over the course of time. A lot of this is inflation. You can see here from 22 to 23, it's a big jump. Part of that is that we saw a huge inflation, 8% and more in 2022. So going into 2023, a lot of it is we didn't really have much of a choice but to say, if we want to keep doing things, it's going to cost us more. There's other things, of course, but I'm not going to go into that detail here. The key of this is that this debt adjustment, this is the max that we can spend. Here's what we've done. And you can see over the course of time, the bar and the line have gotten really close. We talked about protecting cash balance. I'm not going to go into this a lot, but again, this goes back to the S&P rating, where we don't want to get into a position anymore where we're drawing down our cash reserves. we were in a better cash position in 2019, and we've gotten a heck of a lot of capital projects done. And part of the strategy there was to draw down, be willing to draw down a little bit on our cash reserves, but we're just no longer in the position where we want to do that again for the next capital cycle. More so, we want to make sure that we're prepared for fluctuations in certain expenses, and so that we're not walking into negative budgeted performances. So this past year, what we did is we built in some safety valves, essentially. Where here we built in $22,000 to be prepared if a long-term employee retires, because they take with them a heck of a lot of vacation and sick time that they get paid out for, right? The other ones were the way we approach special assessments has changed, as well as creating some sort of a larger health insurance contingency in case a new employee comes in at a higher health insurance rate or takes health insurance when maybe their predecessor didn't, and just being prepared for those types of changes. Oh, here's the department goals and priorities that we had talked about last year. Again, our achievement rate was mixed on this. Okay. Police still waiting for those 2 speed boards. Chief Needfellow has been extremely patient, probably along with the Public Safety Committee. Again, these are just high-level overviews. This is where most of our money goes to. In the first 2 committee meetings tonight, there was a large conversation about trying to increase wages in order to be more competitive in the market, especially with some of our long tenured staff or key positions that are seeing high amount of turnover. Here's some other highlights. I think that was a mistake that got snuck in there. Oh, this just shows how wages and benefits increased since the last year. And again, it just demonstrates that these are 2 large categories, and this is often what's driving increases to our budget overall. Here's just what it looks like per department. And again, this is just here for you to take a look at. This is the same thing per department, but shows changes in those total department budgets over the course of the last 3 years. And then finally, oh, I shouldn't say finally, this is our revenue stream. What this is intended to articulate is just how much we are dependent on taxes and intergovernmental revenue. Taxes, we have levy limits. The other big one is room tax. Room tax is a fairly elastic revenue stream, meaning that it has the potential to shift from year to year quite, and recently it's shifted in the positive direction, but that doesn't mean it's always going to stay there. So we just got to be careful about how much we bank on that. And then intergovernmental revenue, we don't have a lot of control over that, right? It's what the state decides to give us. It's what grants decide to give us, or what we've agreed that they're going to give us, right? Whether it's for taxi or highway aids or just our intergovernmental revenue, like a lot of that's outside of our control. And this smaller piece here, right? These 2 little wedges is a little bit more what's in our control. And that's hard. Like those are the discretionary things. And unfortunately, as a city, because of levy limit rules, we don't have the ability to just start charging fees for stuff we're already doing, right? Because we have to deduct that from our what taxes we take or what we claim under levy limits. So again, I don't want to paint the picture that we have no flexibility when it comes to revenue, but I think we need to be realistic on how much we really do control. Again, just the numbers behind that graph you just saw, how it's changed over time. Again, this intergovernmental revenue, part of the big thing is you can see this leap here from 23 to 24 when Act 12 came into effect, which was the big intergovernmental revenue that increased the size of shared revenues. Okay. And then again, good news is on that front is that we'll continue to see increases in shared revenue again this year. So that was a positive thing that if you see was in the bill that came through the state. Again, final thing, this is just a look at how this impacts property values or how this impacts and shows up as part of the property tax levy. You'll see here, and this gets a little wild, but again, this just shows the growth in our property tax levy year over year, right? And the mill rate per $1,000 equalized value has shrunk. And the reason for that is because equalized values continue to go up as market rates continue to push housing prices up. And we're going through a citywide reassessment this year. So what you can expect is that assessed values are gonna go up, right? They're gonna go back and catch up to what the market rates are. And as a result, you'll see the mill rate drop. But again, how that impacts a homeowner should be about the same. It just, there's a lot of variables that go on there. And again, this kind of just shows that same thing. So probably more information than what you need at this point. But again, I just, in the spirit of trying to deliver budget goals, I feel like every year I've come to you and said, hey, what do you guys want to do about the budget? And everybody's like, oh, remind me how that all works again, right? Like, what are all the things that are important to remember when we're talking about budget goals? I figured I'd take a stab this year and sort of doing a quick refresher on what we talked about when we approved the budget. So with that, I do want to leave it for an open-end discussion at this point with however you would like to approach that.
Thanks, Nate. Thoughts? Some of you were in the other meetings, right, where you sat and heard kind of what, where we're at right now with what folks are looking at. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about in terms of priorities?
Appreciate all
Yeah,
the talks and everything.
I don't have anything to talk about priorities, but didn't last year, I think some of the department heads talked about maybe reviewing their other departments and get involved in the budget process in other departments. Is that something that's going to be implemented this year? Or I know that was brought up last year to, maybe one department head saw something in another department that
We haven't talked
they
about
could maybe
that.
make some changes.
guess.
I know that was brought up last year. I think Rick brought that up. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And I didn't know if there was any further discussion on that by you guys or anybody.
it was certainly an exercise we attempted to do as part of the capital improvement planning, that phase of it, where we looked at each other's capital improvement projects. We had not yet talked about that for doing the budget as a whole and whether or not there could be some cross discussion. I think naturally, if we find opportunities for restructuring how we approach a city service, we sort of engage those two departments in doing it, but we have not at this point had any conversation about replicating sort of the approach we took on the CIP.
Mhm. Cindy, you had said something. I didn't hear.
Thanks for the drafts.
Yeah, I was just thanking him for all
Yeah.
this work,
Sure.
putting his together for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, it was already put together.
But you put it together the first time.
I cut a bunch of slides out and said, here's the same thing. Here's the same homework I showed you last year.
Well, you thought to do it anyway.
Yeah, thanks.
But I like the process and the schedule, and, the timeline, everything. It worked out really good last year. And I think it's a good system that we could use
Mhm.
going forward. Yeah.
Steve?
Is CPI 3.5% this year?
It is a good question. So CPI accumulates over the course of the year. And so where the CPI is at currently, I have not checked recently.
2.1.
It's 2.1. So yeah, to answer your question, where it will land at, so much depends on the market and the number of factors with the world that I can't possibly forecast what that looks like at this point.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
I think on that point, and I guess when you talk about priorities, that is an issue, right? There's a lot of years where we weren't able to even come close to what CPI was those years. So we have a lot of catch up to do as a city as a whole. The first two departments today that talked about budgets, wages are the hot topic. And I think that's probably because it's getting bad enough that neither one of them, and I'm going to pick on the two chiefs, like to talk about that or like to ask for that. And Nate and I have had conversations too. And, but I think it's gotten to be so out of whack that they're finally willing to say like this, we really need to do something about this. And I think we've all seen that. We've seen good folks leave different departments around the city for money, and we have to try to fix that. which would be one of my main budget priorities this year, is to try to figure out how we get in line with wages like we should be as an organization.
One of the exercise, and as long as we're on the topic, I'll jump in. One of the exercises I've already done this year that we've started talking about, because this has been a priority that I would highly recommend, is really looking at wages, not even just one department, but across the city. Is we matched up what over the course of the last 4 years, the average, what we call COLA increases have been for city staff versus what the actual rate of inflation has been. And the reality is that many of our folks who have been here since 2019, 2018 or later have really been impacted most by this, where they're adjusted for inflation, making way less today than they were 5 or 6 years ago. Right. And that's the biggest, that's what should hit everybody right in the face. Is it's not about like, hey, are we competitive with Prairie du Chien or Lancaster, Dodgeville? Are we competitive with West Salem or any of the others similar size, similar type demographic communities we often compare ourselves with? It's like we're failing against ourselves from 6 years ago. Right. So if you're just comparing yourselves to us, like we are doing a poor job, and it's some of our most important people. It's the glue that holds the city together, which in my opinion is the department heads who are responsible for their departments, training people, bringing people up, ensuring and holding everybody accountable for delivering strong city services. And those are the people who have been impacted the most. And so I would preach greatly at this point that wage adjustments we always say they're a priority, and I know we always try. I really know. So I'm not hitting anybody, but this year we need to take a more dramatic approach to wage adjustments. That's what I'm pitching.
And I agree with Nate 100%. I know that's not new news to anybody in the room, other than the fact that, I mean, Nate and I looked at those numbers, and he's right. From 5 years ago, there's people making less when you adjusted for inflation than they were 5 years ago here.
Probably dramatically.
Yeah.
That's the way the last 5 years has been. You think of private markets, of how much incomes have fluctuated in that time, and then to not see it in a public space. And it's hard to ask for, because that ask for wages probably seems so much more selfish than, well, we've got this equipment that is obviously wore out that we need to budget for. You're asking for income for people, and it's tough, but
right,
needs to happen.
Agreed. With that in mind, who wants to be on the budget team? Sorry, Nate. That was just but does anybody have anything else? If not, I would like to. I mean, we need to assign the budget team, so it's usually 3 of us, you and I, and Crystal last year, right? Yeah.
So, to that, if anybody has, I can work on pulling up the process and tell you what the timeline looks like. But you know what you're locking into. So while I'm pulling that, is there anybody else? I know I really can't even go over the head with the rate conversation, but sometimes we talk about like, I want to see, we try looking into this a little bit more, different, whatever pitch you fancy. Again, this is where you folks represent the community. What's the community, right? What do they want to see more? Where do they want to see more time and attention devoted to from scared use?
Steve?
Is it one playground or is it Parks and Rec?
All I hear is Eckhart mainly, but yeah.
I can tell you it's more than one.
I would agree with that.
And ones that aren't even built yet.
Right.
I guess the flip side of the wage coin though is like, where does it come from? That's what we can't do one without taking away from somewhere, right? So then there has to be a realistic expectation on the directors of what they ask for, like we can't, otherwise we're in unsustainable territory as well. So it's not personal. It's just it's a responsibility to the citizens to, I guess, dare I say, be nitpicky right?
So, and that's a tremendous point, Stephen, and in some ways, it's not even about necessarily like this, what the citizens want, we always have to be responsive to. But right after that, there's a hard limit. Even if the citizens are like, yeah, let's do this, let's get rolling, we want to do this. Unless we go out for referendum, we're hard up against levy limits. Up, this next year, we're going to be hard up against them. And so like, there's that barrier, right, of levy limits. And so you're right, we are going to have to ask ourselves, like, where is this money going to come from? And what I've pitched to Justin is every year we pursue this general process of what I call incremental budgeting, right? Or I don't call it that. That's what it's called, is incremental budget. Small adjustments every year. We have a base budget. We make small adjustments up and down every year, right? Incremental budgeting. What I'm talking about more is more comprehensive budgeting, where when I say more dramatic approaches to this, I'm saying like we may have to like really look at reassessing priorities and taking Peter, pay Paul. And again, that's scary, but those are the kind of conversations we need to be willing to engage in as a community to like meet some of these goals. Because as everybody said here, it's like, or the first two departments said here, is like, we really need focus. Chief Neatsfeld said that, and I think he hit it on the head, is like, we are losing people left and right to communities who are half our size. I know there's conversation about like, well, why half our size? But it's like, there's a lot of loss in this community, especially on police departments, but I'm also afraid of like, what does that look like for like leadership level staff? I mean, everybody's a leader, let's not forget that, but like high level leadership staff, like we start losing some of those folks, what does that mean for us? And so we really need to just be cognizant of that. And again, that's why I say, Steve, like more dramatic approaches to solving this issue, which may mean hard choices. It means hard choices every year, but I'm talking about really going the next step, right?
That's yeah, I agree. I mean, it needs to be said, right? Like those are because I'm gonna take a wild stab at it. I don't know. I work in the private sector. I could honestly say my wages weren't raised anywhere near where they need to be either, right? I'm not saying the public shouldn't. It's just I think it's across the board. Like things just aren't keeping up, right? So yeah, we're gonna do what we can. I know that.
There's probably not many communities who were able to keep fully up with inflation. I think the hard part, 2022 is the peak, right? Where we saw 8% plus. Very few communities were able to just say, okay, we're going to do 8% increases across the board for our communities just to keep up with that. The problem is that ours has been year over year over year over year. And so it's really compounded on itself. And so like, you're definitely right. I think a balance needs to be struck in understanding the environment everybody's in, across the region. With that, I know I said I was going to pull up the budget process. Essentially in the month of July, we are going to be looking at having the department heads put together their draft budgets, and then thereafter is when the budget team really has to start doing their work. We will have weekly meetings, like one meeting per week is usually how it's shaked out. And
Nate, are those during the day?
They can be. We usually take a stock of what the budget team works for the budget team and make that happen. But again, that being said, there needs to be flexibility among individual members to be able to work together to find a time that works for the group. But you can see here is that right around 8/11 to 9/12. Those are your dates where the budget team really puts in the work. 4 straight weeks of meeting for Cindy, were you on it last year?
No.
It was Todd,
Crystal, and I.
Todd and Crystal. So you guys remember, I mean, we put 3 hours on the docket, and we went through those 3 hours every time. And there's just a lot to talk about. And so you're talking about somewhere between a 12 to 16-hour commitment over the course of that 1 month.
So who would was there anybody that would really like to be on the budget team? We can start there. And then we'll whittle down to people who are
I'll throw my hat in the ring.
okay.
My wife's gonna kill me, but
do you, that's one. It's up if that works for you, Crystal. I think that's great. I mean, we have to have somebody from the finance on there. So I would say, when you look at from a time perspective, if you have time, it would either probably be you, John, or Todd again. But I don't know what your time's like either. But no. But if you're willing and if it works for you, I think that's great. She's tremendous. Yes. I think she's great to have on there. So is there anybody else just dying to be on it?
It's so much fun.
Yeah. I think it's something that at some point in your time here, it's worth doing if you can make it work, but it's a commitment, right? And I personally, I like the daytime. We've had them during the day, and it tends to work because you can really dig in and focus instead of knowing you're missing dinner with the family or missing something with your kids or whatever. It is nice to be able to do that. So.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Stephen, Crystal, do we have an official nomination
Yeah.
phase or?
If that's all right, I think if we have our three, we have our three and we can move on.
Yeah, I would just make it a vote.
Sure, you'd like a vote. What do you? Crystal,
Sure.
Steve, and myself.
So
Unless somebody else would like to take over my spot, you're certainly welcome to.
So I
But-
just put up there, historically, the budget team consists of myself, the finance chair, the mayor, and one additional council member. So this would follow that path exactly. Doesn't have to be that.
But it doesn't have to be that. It's Todd, you can have my spot. Uh-huh.
So again, we'd just be looking for a motion for those 4 individuals.
I make a motion, we approve those 4 individuals for the budget team, 3 individuals for the budget team, and to join Nate, yes.
Along the way, you don't get. to
AJ,
not-
I'll second
Yeah,
that.
I suppose.
We've got a motion and a second. Any other
AJ.
AJ? Yeah. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Item 17 is review and approval of police bargaining process and timeline. Right?
Hard to believe 2 years has passed already, but we're ready to renegotiate the police union contract. The last time we did it was in 2023 and it covered the 24 and 25 calendar years. And so typically, and I don't have a fancy timeline and process to put in front of you, but last year, and I did speak with a union rep for the police association, which is our in-house union for those who are part of it. And he sort of agreed that the way we did it the last time, I think Todd was a part of it, and I think AJ was a part of it. He agreed that that generally made sense to him. He liked how that worked, and essentially how it goes is sometime towards the end of July, the city puts forth a draft proposal for them to consider. They respond in kind with sort of what they're looking for in writing. Okay, this is the union. And then in August, and the dates I have right now are August 13th and August 27th, what we call the bargaining committee, which would be whoever we decided that is today, would then meet with the police union and their representative, usually sit in this room, and over the course of 3 or 4 hours, negotiate what the new union contract will look like. Okay. And then last year, we got it done in one night. The reason I gave you 2 nights is sometimes it doesn't always go like that. Last time we did one night, and then there was some email back and forth conversations over the course of the next couple of weeks to really finalize the deal. But it may take 2 full nights of conversations, and so we always kind of build in that backup date. I don't know what else to say besides that, but that's the general process we're looking at doing again this year. And so to be available, you kind of similar to what it's probably a little earlier than what you see on here for the budgeting process, which is the dates of 8/11 and 9/12. I would say what we're more looking at is probably July 21st, or we'll say July 27th to August 27th is probably the month we're looking to need you. Time commitments considerably less, because it's usually 1 meeting instead of 4. But that night is pretty exhaustive. And again, I think the number we had last time worked, and again, similarly, it would be the mayor, Chief Needfeld, and then 2 members of council. I don't think necessarily we're looking for somebody from specific committees, but certainly having somebody from public safety committee would make a heck of a lot of sense. I mean, maybe Todd was our rep, or maybe both of you guys were our rep from public safety. And then maybe a member at large would work. Maybe somebody from finance. I think that is maybe how we looked at it. So I know Mayor jumped ahead there to talk about appointment. So if anybody has, I guess we'll start. If anybody has questions on what the process and timeline generally looks like, I just verbally sort of gave it to you.
Do you want to approve that, or do you just want to move on past it?
I unless anybody has any problem with the general plan I've laid out, I don't think we necessarily need an approval.
Does that work with you, Rick? Okay. All right, then. I think we'll move on to item 18, which is the appointment of the police union bargaining committee members. And as Nate mentioned, it's Nate, myself, Chief Needfeld, and we would like 2 members of the council.
I'll throw my hat in again.
Todd and AJ, I think, both jumped at that one. So is that all right with everybody else? Anybody else have any interest? Let's put that into a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that AJ and Todd Spaeth are on the police union bargaining committee.
Steve, I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 19 is payment of the bills.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
AJ, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah, I don't remember there being a ton of things. I think the only thing that I had questions on that we got answered is, I believe in the additional bills, there was this ISCO Industries, and just a reminder, that was the pipe that we pre-bought for the landfill mitigation.
And then just a note that we ended up paying today, Keller, the 694, the pay request number 10. So it doesn't show as paid on the report, but it is.
Yes, and just so it's not confusing, that was the pay request we approved back at the beginning of June.
Sure.
It just took that long for the USDA to concur with it, and we were able to finally get that check cut today.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll do a roll call.
Okay. Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
All right. With that, we will move on to item number 20, which is a possible closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governing body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This is in regards to the union auxiliary worker 1-year review. Hold on.
Just real quick. I know that a break is coming up.
Yep.
I would suggest a break after 20.
That was the plan.
That works. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. I just wanted to.
I figured this one would
I
go
figured
quickly.
Seth was about to pop up. He's usually the canary who lets me know.
Todd, I move to go in closed session.
Got a
Steve,
motion
I'll second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
All right. We'll move into closed session. All right. Right. So we're back in open session. We'll do item number 21, which is reconvene an open session with possible action on items discussed during closed session.
I make a motion that we approve what was discussed in closed session.
This is Crystal, all second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I think so. Is it? We'll do a roll call. She's running out of check marks on that sheet.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd, Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth.
Aye.
All right, so we are going to skip over 22 and 23, and we'll move into item number 24 after a short break.
So just an FYI on 22 and 23, just so everybody knows, it's just a matter of, we just have to get a little bit more legal work done.
Their table.
So yeah,
Yeah.
22 and 23, we just, because of the larger lease and this lease, there's just some more legal connectivity that we have to achieve here to make sure everything's in order, but we'll bring it back at the end of the month to be solid. We just ran out of time.
We'll come back in 5 or so minutes and hop back into closed session.
All right, folks, we're back from break. If Mayor, you want to just.
Yep, I'm gonna move on to item number 24, which is possible closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 1G. Conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering an oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. And this is regarding Leathers and Associates contract invoice.
This is Crystal. I'd move we go into closed session.
Steve, second.
Motion and a second. We'll do a roll call.
Todd,
Aye.
Cindy, John,
He stepped out.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
All right, we are back in open session. Item number 25 is to reconvene an open session with possible action on items discussed during closed session. There is no action to take. So we will move on to item number 6, which is the 26, which is the second period for public comment. We have nobody in house. If there's anybody online, now would be the time.
Is it pretty good? This is Kim Little. I would just like to thank you for your time with Leathers and hope we can soon come to an agreement on that. That's all.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you for all your time also.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Anybody else? Nope. Hey, now I take a motion to adjourn.
ZJ make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.